Welcome to today's explainer on the research behind intelligence testing. How do we actually measure something as incredibly complex as the human mind? I mean, it's not like measuring your height or weight, right? Today, we are going to unpack exactly how psychologists categorize and deploy different types of tools to measure intelligence. We'll be looking directly at the administration procedures, test formats, and the deep cultural challenges involved in creating these assessments.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Measuring the mind. 2. Individual versus group tests. 3. Verbal and performance tests. 4. The cultural bias problem. And 5. Intelligence testing in India.
Section 1. Measuring the mind. The core challenge.
Because intelligence is such a multidimensional capacity, there isn't just one magic test that works for every single person. Instead, intelligence tests come in several types. You basically choose a specific test depending entirely on the purpose of your use. Generally speaking, these tests are broken down by their administration procedure, meaning how they are actually given, their format, meaning the nature of the items used, and their cultural focus, which is the extent to which a test might favor one culture over another. Section 2, individual versus group tests, the administration. So, on one side, we have individual tests, administered to just one person at a time. These require the test administrator to establish a direct rapport with the subject. And this is actually crucial. It allows the tester to be sensitive to the person's feelings, their moods, and their expressions during the session. The subject might answer out loud, in writing, or by physically manipulating objects. On the flip side, group tests can be given to several persons simultaneously. It is highly efficient, sure, but it completely removes that opportunity to become familiar with the subject's feelings. Group tests generally just seek written answers, usually in a standard multiple-choice format.
Section 3. Verbal, nonverbal, and performance. The format.
Next up, let's look at the format based on the nature of the items used. First, we have verbal tests. These require subjects to give verbal responses, either orally or in a written form. But there is a massive catch here. Because they rely so heavily on language, verbal tests can literally only be administered to literate people. If someone hasn't had access to reading instruction, a verbal test becomes highly restrictive.
So how do we bypass that language barrier? Well, tests can be fully nonverbal or fully performance-based. Instead of written language, nonverbal tests use pictures or illustrations as test items. Performance tests take a slightly different approach. They require subjects to actually manipulate objects and other materials to perform a task. The beautiful thing here, in both cases, written language is completely unnecessary.
And this brilliantly illustrates the concept. This specimen item from Raven's Progressive Matrices, or RPM, completely eliminates the need for language. The subject simply examines the incomplete pattern at the top and chooses a figure from the alternatives below that logically completes it. It's kind of like a giant visual puzzle. It is a perfect example of a nonverbal test in action.
Now, for performance tests, a classic example is cause block design test. In this one, the subject is given a number of wooden blocks and asked to arrange them within a specific time period to produce a given geometric design. A major advantage of performance tests like this is that they can be easily administered to persons from entirely different cultures. Why? Precisely because they don't rely on local languages or vocabularies.
Section 4. The cultural bias problem.
Which brings us to a really critical issue. Intelligence tests can be either culture fair or culture biased. And honestly, a lot of tests show a heavy bias toward the culture in which they were developed. Early tests from America and Europe represented a very urban and middle-class cultural ethos. So educated, middle-class white subjects generally performed well, while the items largely ignored the cultural perspectives of Asia and Africa. And to make matters worse, the norms for scoring these tests were drawn entirely from Western groups.
Because of this deep-rooted bias, psychologists recognize it is nearly impossible to design a single test that can be applied equally meaningfully in all cultures. It just doesn't work. To combat this, they strive to develop tests that are culture fair, meaning they assess experiences common to all cultures, or they use questions where language usage is simply not required. This is exactly why those nonverbal and performance tests are absolutely crucial. They actively help reduce the cultural bias usually associated with standard verbal tests.
Section 5. Intelligence testing in India, adaptation and localization.
Let's move to and see how this builds in a specific context. Because Western tests didn't fit the Indian context, there was incredible pioneering momentum to adopt them. Back in the 1930s, S.M. Mohsen made a groundbreaking attempt by constructing an intelligence test in Hindi. Around that same time, C.H. Rice attempted to standardize Binet's famous test in Urdu and Punjabi, while Mahalanobis concurrently attempted to standardize Binet's test in Bengali. What's actually mind-blowing here is the sheer scale of the institutional effort that followed. Researchers didn't just casually translate tests, they rigorously developed Indian norms for Western tests like RPM, WISE, and Coe's block design. Eventually, Long and Mehta prepared a mental measurement handbook that listed a staggering 103 tests of intelligence available across various Indian languages. Today, the National Library of Educational and Psychological Tests, or NLEPT, at the NCERT officially documents and reviews these localized tools.
So the crucial point is that psychologists now have a remarkably rich variety of localized tools at their disposal. Looking at some tests developed in India, we see verbal options like the CIE Verbal Group Test of Intelligence, Jalotha's Group Test, and Mohsen's Bahar Test. On the performance side, we have tests like Pramila Pathak's Draw a Man Test, Ramalinga Swami's Adaptation of the Waist, and notably, Bhatia's battery of performance tests, which became wildly popular. We've seen how meticulously psychologists categorize and adapt these tests, from intimate one-on-one performance tasks to broad, localized culture-fair assessments. But since it is nearly impossible to design a single test that applies equally meaningfully everywhere, I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. Are these standardized tests truly measuring a person's global intelligence, or are they often just measuring how well someone fits into the cultural ethos of the test maker? Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with us today.